Long ago, the world was filled with people who cared only for themselves. They did not love God or each other, and their hearts were full of anger. Every day, they found new ways to be unkind. God saw all the sadness and fighting, and it made him very sad. But in this troubled world there was one good man, Noah. Noah loved God and tried to do what was right, even when no one else did. He had a family, a wife, 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives. Noah taught his family to love God too. They were a small, quiet family in a world full of noise and unkindness. Noah tried to warn others, "Please stop being so mean, God loves you." But the people laughed at him and ignored his words. They built cities but filled them with selfishness. Noah and his family were alone in their goodness. It was hard to be the only ones doing right, but Noah never gave up. He kept loving God and being kind, trusting that God saw him. Even if everyone else did wrong, Noah knew it was important to do right, and God did see him. God saw Noah's good heart shining like a light in a dark world. Noah's faith set him apart. He stood firm, even when others mocked him. In a world gone wrong, Noah chose to do what was right, and that made all the difference. One day God spoke to Noah. God said, "Noah, I am very unhappy. The world is full of wickedness. I will send a great flood to wash the world clean, but I will save you and your family because you have been faithful." God told Noah to build a giant ark, big enough for his family and strong enough to survive the storm. God gave Noah exact instructions. Use gopher wood, make it long, wide, and tall with rooms inside, a roof, a window, and a big door. Cover it with tar to keep the water out, God said. Noah listened carefully and trusted God completely. He didn't question or doubt. He believed God's promise. Noah told his family about God's plan and the coming flood. Though it sounded impossible, they trusted God and agreed to help. Together, they prepared for the biggest task of their lives. Noah's faith gave him courage to obey, even when the world around him did not believe. The family began to gather what they needed. They knew God would guide them through. Noah's trust in God was unshakable. He was ready to do whatever God asked. The world would change, but Noah's faith would remain. God had chosen Noah for a reason. The journey was about to begin. Noah and his family stood together, ready to follow God's command. Their trust would save them. The ark would be their hope. The next day, Noah and his sons began building the ark. They searched for strong gopher wood, cut down trees, and shaped the planks. Day after day they worked from sunrise to sunset. Their hands grew sore, but they did not stop. They were building for God. Curious people came to watch and asked, "What are you building, Noah?" Noah replied, "An ark. God will send a flood. Change your ways." But the people only laughed and called him foolish. Noah ignored their laughter and kept working. The ark grew bigger than any building they had ever seen. They built the base, then the sides, hammering each plank in place. Inside they made rooms and stalls for animals. God told Noah to save 2 of every kind of animal, a boy and a girl. Noah and his sons built spaces for elephants, giraffes, rabbits, birds, and more. They made sure every creature would have a safe place. The work was hard, but their faith was strong. The people kept mocking, but Noah's family pressed on. They built with hope, one piece at a time. The ark was nearly ready. Noah trusted God's plan. The world was about to change. Noah's obedience would save many lives. Years passed as Noah and his family worked on the ark. The massive boat stood tall on dry land, a strange sight to everyone. People traveled just to see it and made jokes about Noah's folly. But Noah prayed for strength and kept building, trusting God's promise. Finally, the last plank was hammered in place. The ark was 3 stories high, with many rooms and a big door. Noah and his sons covered the ark inside and out with sticky tar to make it waterproof. When the ark was finished, it stood silent and ready, a monument of faith. Noah and his family looked at what they had built. They had obeyed God and built the impossible. Tired but hopeful, they waited for God's next instruction. The years of hard work were done. Now they trusted God to do his part. The ark was ready for whatever would come. Noah's faith had carried them through. The world outside was unchanged, but inside the ark, hope was alive. The family prepared for the unknown. They had done their part. Now they waited for God's promise to unfold. The journey was about to begin. Then, a miracle happened. Noah saw animals coming from every direction, 2 of every kind. Giraffes, elephants, lions, turtles, birds, all walked peacefully toward the ark. God was sending them just as he promised. The people who had laughed at Noah were amazed. The animals entered the ark, 2 by 2, calm and orderly. Noah and his family guided them to their stalls and cages. The ark filled with the sounds of animals, but it was a joyful noise. For 7 days, animals arrived until the last pair was safely inside. Noah's family brought food for themselves and the animals. The ark became a floating home, a zoo, and a storehouse all in one. Everything was ready for the journey ahead. The world outside watched in awe. Noah's faith was being fulfilled before their eyes. The ark was full of life, hope, and God's promise. The time had come. Noah and his family prepared for what was next. The adventure was about to begin. When everyone was inside, the great door of the ark closed, sealed by God's own hand. The world outside was shut away. People who had mocked Noah now begged to be let in, but it was too late. For 7 days, Noah and his family waited inside the ark. Nothing happened at first. The sun still shone. People outside laughed again, thinking Noah was trapped. But Noah trusted God's timing. Inside, the family settled the animals and prayed together. They waited in faith, even when it was hard. Doubt could have crept in, but Noah's faith was strong. He knew God would keep his promise. The ark was quiet, filled with the soft sounds of animals. Noah's family was safe, floating in a sea of silence. They waited for God to act. The world outside was unchanged, but inside, hope remained. Noah's trust never wavered. The waiting was a test of faith. Soon, everything would change. The storm was coming. Noah's family was ready. On the 7th day, the sky turned dark and thunder rumbled. Lightning flashed and rain began to pour. It didn't stop. Water came from the sky and from the ground. The flood rose quickly, covering streets, fields, and even mountains. People outside ran for cover, but there was nowhere to hide. Inside the ark, Noah's family heard the storm rage. The animals were frightened, but the ark kept them safe and dry. The boat began to float, rising above the floodwaters. God's plan was working. Noah's family was safe. The storm outside was terrifying, but inside they were protected. Years of faith and hard work had saved them. The ark carried them above the chaos. Noah's trust in God was rewarded. The world was being washed clean. The family held on to hope. They were safe in God's hands. The rain would not last forever. A new beginning was on the horizon. For 40 days and nights, rain poured down. The ark floated on a world of water. Nothing but waves in every direction. Inside, Noah's family cared for the animals, feeding and cleaning every day. It was hard work, but they worked together. They couldn't see the sun or moon, but they trusted God. Sometimes the ark rocked gently. Other times the storm tossed it about. In scary moments, they prayed and held on to faith. God was with them in the boat. After 40 days, the rain stopped, but the water stayed for a long time. They spent over a year inside the ark. They missed the sun and solid ground, but they never lost hope. They told stories, sang songs, and prayed together. Their patience and trust grew stronger. The ark was their home, their shelter, and their lesson in faith. They waited for the water to go down. God's promise kept them going. The world outside was changing. Inside, hope remained alive. After many months, the ark came to rest on Mount Ararat. Noah sent out a raven, then a dove, to see if the land was dry. The dove returned with an olive leaf. New life was growing. Finally, the dove did not return. The earth was ready. God told Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your family, and all the animals." Noah opened the door and sunlight filled the ark. The world was fresh and new. Noah, his family, and the animals stepped onto dry ground. The first thing Noah did was build an altar and thank God for keeping them safe. As they prayed, God placed a rainbow in the sky. "This is my promise," God said. "I will never again flood the whole earth." The rainbow was a sign of hope and a new beginning. Whenever they saw it, they remembered God's promise. The storm was over. The world was clean and full of possibility. God's love and promise would last forever. Noah's faith had changed everything. The family rejoiced in the new world. The rainbow shone as a symbol of God's faithfulness. The journey was complete. Hope had returned to the earth, and God's promise would never fade.